Good afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to our latest opposition preview show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, of course, before we preview this game against Wolves, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, of course, we face a Wolves team who are in very good form this weekend. And of course, they were in the relegation zone fairly recently. They are the blueprint that we have to follow if we really want to get out of this relegation zone. To discuss everything Wolves, it is a pleasure to welcome back onto the show from the Talking Wolves podcast, Dave Azzopardi. Evening, Dave. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Good, good. I would say that we're looking forward to it, although, of course, we got a decent result against Newcastle. But of course, you're not in bad form at all. I think we've got to cover off the recent form because you've moved up to 15th. You did look, well, you were in the relegation zone for quite some time. What's been the secret and what's happened in those past two games against Liverpool and, of course, that lot down the M27?
No, I think that Lopetegui's had a big impact. Since he's come in as manager, I would assume, I haven't factually checked it, but out of sort of the bottom six clubs, we've probably got the best form since Christmas. Out of all of those, we were rock bottom when he took over. We were 4 points adrift, and then we're almost the opposite now. We're sort of 4 or 5 points from safety. We're in a good position. The last couple of games have been fantastic. Just before the FA Cup fourth round, obviously we had a little break because we weren't in the competition, which I think did us a world of good. We lost quite heavily to Manchester City. We looked really, really poor. But then last weekend, or weekend before rather, against Liverpool, it was a phenomenal performance. And it just seemed like it was a routine win for Wolves. It was really strange. We barely had to get out of first gear. Really solid performance. The key thing for us was getting the early goals. We scored 2 goals really early on in the game. And I think whenever you do that, in one way, yes, it makes life a lot easier because you can take things a bit easier and you can sit back a little bit more. We did invite pressure on. I did feel if Liverpool scored a goal before half time, or maybe the first 5-10 minutes of the second half, it would have been a very, very long afternoon. But we did really, really well in that game. And then obviously we built on it last weekend. I was worried with all the comments that Nathan Jones was putting out. I thought, he's going to somehow find a way to beat us here. When the red card came out early on as well, I thought, no, it's going to be a long afternoon. But phenomenal fight back. Southampton looked really, really poor second half. Even with 10 men, I just thought the way we were playing second half, I thought we were going to beat these. So I think if they don't sort their manager situation out soon, I think they'll be going down because even with 10 men, we looked far better. But yeah, it's good, mate. Good that form's up. And no disrespect to you guys, and even Fulham next week. I think the next couple of weeks we've still got games we can look at. I think we can still get points out of these 2 games as well.
And of course, Lopetegui has made Wolves, difficult to beat. Has got these decent results. I remember at one stage you were struggling to score on the Large, and Lopetegui has really changed that. Do you think that it does coincide with a couple of players coming back from injury that maybe Lage didn't have?
Yeah, a little bit of that. I think the goal scoring thing is it started even before Lage came in, because Nuno's last season we averaged less than a goal a game. Bruno Lage last year, although he finished off fairly well, but we were in European contention until like the last 8 or 9 games. Again, it averaged less than a goal a game and started off poorly. He's having some players come back in, but to be fair, I think with Lopetegui, the board have backed him heavily in January. I think they had to as well. I don't think he would have joined without backing. Um, but I don't really think the players that he's got available, it's not vastly different to what Bruno Lage had, to be fair. He's starting to have some players come back now, like Pedro Neto's close to coming back and so on. And I think that will help. But yeah, the thing is, there's still a lot of room for improvement for us in front of goal, I feel. But to score 5 goals in our last 2 games is almost unheard of for us over the last few years. So yeah, we're just enjoying it whilst we can at the moment.
And the way you're playing, you do look the most likely of the teams in that relegation dogfight to get out of it. You know, a lot of people said West Ham would pull clear,
Yeah.
but it's just everything seems to have come together at the right time for Wolves, and of course the wrong time for us. But personally, from where I'm sitting, this is a 6-pointer.
Yeah, I think we are quite fortunate in a way with almost the timing of our managerial change. At the time when Bruno Lage was sacked, I thought Wolves just took far too long to replace him. We had 4 or 5 games with a caretaker manager in charge. And Steve Davis probably did as well as he could have, but only won the 1 game. Thankfully, it was against Forest, so we took points off a team that could get dragged into it. And I think, fortunately for us, Lopetegui had that World Cup break, had, across Christmas to sort things out, and it's slowly but surely coming together. I still don't think he knows his best formation. I don't think he knows his best 11, which I suppose is good in a way because he's just got so many options that he can rely on. I think the issue possibly for Bournemouth, possibly for Southampton, maybe even Leeds, are the timing of managerial changes. Not so much the timing of yours, but possibly, I think maybe looking at it from an outsider, you probably would have wanted someone a little bit more experienced in hindsight. But I think we've just been very lucky that the manager and the man that we've brought in has got a hell of a lot of experience and should be good enough to keep us in the Premier League this year.
And it's interesting what you said there, because a lot of Bournemouth fans feel that we should have made a change in the during the World Cup to actually bring in an experienced manager. There was talks of Bielsa. I had a Argentinian journalist on, and he said it was pretty much agreed with Bielsa, but we stuck with Gary O'Neill. And since then, he hasn't won a game.
Yeah.
And that is highly concerning. Effectively, Wolves was Gary O'Neill's first game after
Yeah.
the thumping at Liverpool. It could well be his last if he doesn't get a result.
Yeah. I think I said this on our podcast before the Southampton game. I looked at these and I know, obviously, from your tweets and just seeing, a few tweets here and there, that things weren't great. And I did wonder, if we beat Southampton, will Nathan Jones get sacked? And if we beat Bournemouth the following week, will O'Neill get the sack as well? So it would be interesting. But I think Bournemouth, if they lose this weekend and if they let him go, they've just got to make sure they've got someone lined up and ready, because I think it will come back to bite Southampton and Leeds on the backside. I've got a feeling those two will struggle because they just haven't got a manager in quick enough.
So your thought is stick with Gary O'Neill rather than change him at this stage?
No, I think you've got every right to let him go, but you've got to make sure you got a replacement ready. So even if they know, Saturday evening, right, we're going to let Gary O'Neill go. If it's Bielsa, if it's someone else, just make sure, can you come in on Monday and start? Basically,
Yeah.
you just want them in as soon as they can. Basically,
How do you think, considering how Bournemouth lined up against Newcastle, and one thing that is a criticism of Gary O'Neill is he goes too defensive. So against Brighton, he went very, very defensive. Against Forest, we was 1-0 up. He went defensive and they equalised. He didn't do that against Newcastle. How do you think Wolves combat that if he goes down that route, the Eddie way, effectively?
I think if Bournemouth come out and almost attack us, especially at Molineux, I'll be intrigued. I think Wolves just need to make sure if they can get on the front foot early enough and get an early goal, I think we're okay because I'm confident in us seeing games out as such. We tend to struggle a little bit more when teams sit deep. So I would be interested to see how how the game goes. With you guys being away from home, I'd expect you to be more cautious, but I might be wrong. I mean, you've got nothing to lose really at this point. Like, you need to score goals, you need to win football matches. I think you've got very talented attackers, quick attackers, some of them as well. So, if you catch us, I'm happy with our back line at the moment, but Craig Dawson and Max Gilman aren't the quickest defenders in the league. So I think, with your pace, you may well get us there. So I think for Bournemouth, their best bet is to probably play on the counter more than anything.
And just going back to Connor Cody as well, of course, he's at Everton. I just find it such a funny move because, of course, he is still a Wolves player, but he's at Everton and effectively it could work against you. Have Wolves actually got a choice to actually recall him, or is it just that he's just surplus to requirements this season?
It was a strange one with Cody because pretty much ever since Nuno came in, he was a massive part of the squad, massive part of the team, and massive part of our Premier League journey. Captain throughout. Us getting to the Europa League, the FA Cup semi-final, and so on. But I just felt that if Wolves ever wanted to progress, they played a back five because of Connor Cody, basically, because they knew they had a good leader captain in the middle of the defence. But for us to progress and get better as a team and score more goals, I felt we had to go back four. And Connor Cody, I mean, he's playing there for Everton, but he never convinced Wolves fans that he'd be able to play in a back four. And that's why I don't think he plays that often for England, although he gets called up. He doesn't play in a back four. So Bruno Lage took a brave decision in letting him go. Two things, really, because you've got a very talented player that would just be sat on the bench if you play a back four. And two, obviously, the World Cup was coming up. So you wanted almost to grant him a move away to make sure he gets minutes before the World Cup. Obviously, Everton aren't in the best of places at the moment. I think they might just stay up under Dyche. But I'd expect him to leave in the summer. Everton have got an option to buy, unless Lopetegui changes things and wants to bring him back, which I doubt. But Everton have got an option to buy, and it's a pretty favourable option. So I'd expect if they stay up, he'll leave for good.
I'm sure that Wolves fans are now thinking that you are going to claw your way to safety. In the last five, the only team that you've been beaten by is Manchester City. So it says its own story. Beat Liverpool, of course. Who do you think are going to go down? Can you give us some confidence, or do you think you're just going to condemn us to the drop?
I think Southampton will go. Unfortunately, I think you guys will go. I don't know. The third team is a difficult one for me. I think if Leeds don't get their act together, I think they could get sucked in as well. So at the moment, I would say Leeds, Bournemouth, and Southampton. Unfortunately.
No, that's fair enough, mate. The end of the day, it hasn't been good, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get enough points to get across the line. But I've got to agree. I think we need 7 wins or something accumulating to the same as what 7 wins would be to be safe. And at this moment in time, I can't see where it's going to come from, even though we have strengthened. Have you seen much of Bournemouth's new signings like Atar and Hamid Traore and, the sort of threats that they bring?
I haven't seen much of them. I know Atara is it. He scored, didn't he, on his debut, I think. So I think, to be fair to the club and your board, obviously backed the club fairly well. And I know you were linked with some sort of crazy signings during January as well. And I thought, you know what, fair play to Bournemouth because they're giving it a really good go here. So again, no disrespect to Gary O'Neill, I don't think he's going to be somebody that keeps you up. So I think if Wolves do beat you at the weekend, I think for your own safety, I think they need to bring somebody else in. So it reminds me a little bit. I was thinking about it earlier a little bit like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United, who started off so well as a caretaker manager. They waited a little bit until they gave him the permanent job, and as soon as they did, just started to go downhill a little bit. I remember, obviously, just after we played you guys, you had a little upturning form, and I looked at the table, and you were top half, and doing quite well. And then all of a sudden, like you said earlier, since the World Cup, it's not been great, and you're in a little bit of trouble now. So, yeah, I think the new signings you've got, fair play to the board for backing the team, but I think they just need a new leader in charge.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we got to predict the game. How do you think it's going to go, Dave?
I think it will be a close game. Wolves very rarely make it easy for themselves. But, I think it'll be a close game. I'll probably go play it safe, both teams to score, but Wolves just to edge it, a 2-1 win.
I'm going to go for a draw. But it's not going to do us any favours. Probably isn't going to do you much favours in respect either, but I think it's going to be one of those games where it's so edgy, neither team want to get beat. I think we'll try and go for it. We will score, but I think you'll get one back. So probably a 1-1, I think. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll both be doing this next season in the Premier League. Yeah, I think you're more likely to be in the Premier League than we are at this moment in time, but it can all change. It can all change. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll both be in here, and it'll be a pleasure to welcome you back on. But before you go, Dave, do tell everybody again where they can find Talking Wolves.
Yeah, so we're on Talking Wolves everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on the YouTube. You know, we do a little bit of everything: the match previews, match reactions, fans react, and obviously do our podcast as well. So if Bournemouth beat us at the weekend, feel free to pop over, and you'll probably see me almost crying at the camera anyway.
No problem. Well, thank you so much, Dave. And I've got to say, before we end the show, I absolutely love the light behind you.
Oh yeah,
that is something of quality. That really is. I need to sort that out. But
a subscriber sorted that out for me. So yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
If you're that subscriber, get in contact with me because I'd love a Bournemouth variant. I don't know how you're going to do it because the Wolves logo is so unique. It's probably a lot easier to do than this, but but yeah, if you're that subscriber, please do get in contact because I'll pay good money for that. But like I say, Dave, pleasure as always.
My pleasure,
and
mate.
all the very best, of course, after Saturday.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thanks a lot for having me.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this show. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries and All Departments. Please do also remember to check out all of our previous interviews. We've had James Hayter, Steve Fletcher, Harry Redknapp, and many, many others. So do check them all out. Do remember to check out Cherries Extra as well. And we will have a free-for-all show on Sunday. And I'm sure it'll be run by either Matt or Max, who has recently joined our team. So welcome to the team, Max. But until the next one, up the Cherries, and thank you for joining us.